So my name's Elif. I'm from, well, I coordinate the Kurdish Students' Union. I'm a part of the Kurdish Assembly in the UK. I'd like to call myself a Kurdish activist also. Very happy to be here today. So, as everybody may or may not know, after the First World War, the structure and the political map of the Middle East had been redesigned. The Treaty of Lausanne in 1923 resulted in the Kurdish people being divided into 4 states: Turkey, Iran, Iraq and Syria, which left the Kurds without status. This meant that the Kurdish people were not recognised as a nation, therefore their culture, language, identity and a general right to exist was denied. For almost 100 years, this has been the motivation behind the resistance of the Kurdish people. The west of Kurdistan, known as Rojava, which includes the Kobane, Cizre and Afrin cantons, has been at a strategic position for the Kurdish people and the Middle East for some time now. It has also been at an important key stage for Syria, as it's the safest and most diverse place where people of all ethnicities, religions, cultures, backgrounds and beliefs can live, together in autonomy. The Kurdish freedom struggle has been carried out over Rojava, West Kurdistan, officially since 2012, and now even more concentrated in the Kobane canton. If the West Kurdistan, being Rojava, reaches success, it will positively affect and increase the democratic struggle in other regions of Kurdistan. Not only this, but it will set a model for the entire Middle East, possibly the world, considering the events that took place during the Arab Spring, where the uprising of the people against the state had unfortunately not resulted in a better government. The result of the Arab Spring has therefore demonstrated to us that the overthrowing of dictators alone is insufficient. We must also create a reliable alternative government that represents the voice of the people. So what does this mean? It means that the people of Rojava are taking major steps towards a peaceful existence where they can practice their cultures, beliefs and languages that make up their identity freely. We must remember and appreciate that the development in Rojava today not only signifies revolution of the Kurdish people and the people of the Middle East, but also, and most importantly, the freedom of women, who have taken a central role in the overall movement. So Abdullah Öcalan, the Kurdish Workers' Party PKK leader, says the 5,000-year-old history of civilization is essentially the history of enslavement of women. So therefore, he says, a country cannot be free unless its women are. One example of this practice of the liberation of women is the co-chair system in Rojava at the moment, which enables women to take positions on every level of decision making, whether it's commissions, institution, parliament, assemblies, education, anything. This is a significant step concerning a region where women have been and are still being oppressed on a very, very large scale. The other example is that alongside YPG, the People's Defence Unit, there is also an autonomously organised women's defence unit, namely YPJ. So again, what does this mean? This means that women actively participate and have been playing a main role in the protection of the people against violent terror attacks of the so-called ISIS. So the introduction of the release 2012 of the constitution of the cantons is as follows. By the way, I have these. So this is the whole constitution that can go around in a second or now. Yeah. So yeah, that's the whole constitution. It's about 20 pages long, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. But the introduction is, we the people of the democratic autonomous regions of Afrin, Cizre and Kobane, a confederation of Kurds, Arabs, Syriacs, Arameans, Turkmens, Armenians and Chechens, freely and solemnly declare and establish this charter. In pursuit of freedom, justice, dignity and democracy, and led by principles of equality and environmental sustainability, the charter proclaims a new social contract based upon mutual and peaceful coexistence and understanding between all strands of society. It protects fundamental human rights and liberties and reaffirms the people's right to self-determination. Under the Charter, we, the people of the autonomous regions, unite in the spirit of reconciliation, pluralism and democratic participation so that all may express themselves freely in public life. In building a society free from authoritarianism, militarism, centralism, and the intervention of the religious authorities in public affairs, the Charter recognises Syria's territorial integrity and aspires to maintain domestic and international peace. In establishing this Charter, we declare a political system and civil administration founded upon a social contract that reconciles the rich mosaic of Syria through a transitional phase from dictatorship, civil war and destruction to a new democratic society where civil life and social justice are preserved. The complete constitution is about 20 pages, so if you want to, you can read the whole thing. Unfortunately, the constitution has not been fulfilled or practiced in full till date. This is due to the events that have been going on in Rojava, Kobane especially at the moment, for the last 2 years, Kobane in the last 40 days or so. So the latest in Kobane, there was an article by Jelle Brunsma that states the motivation of the imperialist government's involvement in Kobane. So while ISIS has been driven out of Kobane, dangers of the US imperial prerogatives lurk around the corner for Kurdish ambitions for democratic autonomy. Two reasons seem to explain the intensified involvement of the US. Firstly, the well-trained YPG PKK forces proved the most effective military opponents of ISIS, even when highly outnumbered and outgunned. The YPG PKK forces proved their worth for the second time after first coming to the rescue of the Yazidi Kurd around the Sinjar mountain. Since the United States does not want to put boots on the ground, since its regional allies have not shown any serious commitment so far, and since its aerial campaign is doomed to failure, it needs allies who are determined to fight ISIS. Secondly, the US is helping out in Kobane for propaganda reasons. In the words of the BBC's diplomatic and defence editor, Mark Urban, as in any good mafia network, in international relations, reputation is everything. With the US announcing it will degrade and ultimately destroy ISIS, and the eyes of the world on Kobane due to the hardened bravery of the Kurdish fighters and the activism by their supporters all over the world, a massacre in Kobane would have dealt a blow to the US credibility. Kobane is a more symbol than a strategic asset, but its loss would strengthen the sense that ISIS is unstoppable. Brookings Institution Military Analysis Michael O'Hanlon adds. So the Kurds are aware in the long term cooperation with the United States is incompatible with their own ambitions and aspirations for a region and society liberated of all forms of oppression. But whether there are any other options in the short term is a valid question. Even for the continuous supply of much needed heavy weaponry and free movement of forces, they are to a large extent dependent on the preferences of the imperial masters. For us, for you, as Westerners who stand in solidarity with our Kurdish comrades, it is key to keep the pressure on our own states. To keep the eyes of the world focused on Kobane and the wider struggle. More than that, we need to openly support the cause of the YPG for arms supplies and argue for the PKK to be taken off that monstrous terrorist list so we don't have to reply on the imperialists. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, the Kurds in the end may only be able to count on themselves. The more freedom to move they have, the better armed they are, the better able they will be able to protect the social revolution in Rojava and further combat ISIS. Let's all be the voice of Rojava. Thank you.